Hey guys, welcome to the DIY Prepper. We used to be called the Homestead Learning Project. That was getting kind of hard to type and kind of hard to remember, so we're going to change the name of the channel to the DIY Prepper. Well, today we've got it's made by Brute. It's a lawnmower that doesn't want to start, and I'm pretty certain it's the carburetors that's clogged up on it, but we'll run out here right quick. I'll show you what we got going on, and we'll see about getting it fixed. Well, nothing. Guess we need to clean out the carburetor on this thing. These EX series engines from Briggs & Stratton, they really hate having gas in them that's old. And I'm talking like a week or two is too old for these things to run. And ethanol even makes it worse. What happens is the carburetor gets clogged up and they just don't start anymore. And you got to go through and clean them out every now and then. No big deal. We'll probably take care of that tomorrow. Anyway, I'll see you guys here in a bit. Alright, what do y'all say we just quit talking about it, get started with it? And this will come off. And now I get to pick my screws up because I didn't put them up earlier. Now, one thing you need to remember is this fuel line right here. I've already drained this, but if you haven't drained it, you're gonna wish you did. Most people take the fuel line off right here. I prefer to come back here and take it off just because it's a little bit easier. I don't have to fight with it as much. Just give it a twist to break it loose. It should come right off. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to remove these two bolts that hold the carburetor in place. There's one over here, and here's the other one. I'm not sure if you could see it, but it's back there. I'm going to use a 1/4 inch impact, but there's no reason you can't just do this with a standard ratchet. Now that we've got the two bolts free, I've noticed we've got more linkage in here that holds this together. We'll need to take off this bolt on the top of here to remove this, and then we'll be on our way. It's removed by the Phillips head screws in the top cover plate. It should just lift out of the way. We'll set that aside. That gives us access to this, which we'll remove next. And the carburetor should drop free. This cable right here will have to be twisted. We'll have to twist the carburetor and maneuver it out. And it can be a little bit of a pain, but it'll come out. Just work with it. There we go. The carburetor's free. I've brought the carburetor out here to the porch just to give a little bit better light so you can better see what's going on. There will be some residual fuel left in the fuel bowl, and expect that to get around. So I've got a plate down here to catch it. It'll wash up just fine. We remove the bowl nut. Dump out the fuel. Yes, we could definitely see why that carburetor was not working properly. Look at all that dirt in there. Definitely the reason why this failed. Now that we have our carburetor apart, we'll inspect it all and take a look at it. Take a look at the fuel bowl. We'll pull the pin out right here that holds the fuel bowl in. Sometimes these can be a little bit of a pain, but work at them and they'll come out eventually. Gently take the fuel bowl out of the carburetor. Connected to this carburetor will be the needle valve, the needle float valve. This will have to be able to move freely in here. Next thing we need to do is to take our carburetor cleaner, clean everything up. Just give it a good scrubbing. Make sure it's good and nice and clean. Set our carburetor aside to dry, and the big problem with small engines nowadays is ethanol-based fuel. Your best friend here is going to be a bread tie. Not sure if you can see that on camera, but we're going to scrub out each one of these little passageways with the bread tie. Make sure that we can get through them freely. There's the corrosion. We're going to clean all that out. Sorry, I'm trying to do this through the viewfinder and it's proving to be difficult. There we go. So that one's good and clean. Now we'll take our carburetor. And this one has a lot more passageways in it to worry about. You can see in there, I think, there's little passageways in there. We have to clean those out really, really well. So what we'll do is we will take our bread tie and insert it, run it back and forth a few times, make sure it's good and clean, and we'll move to each one. Each passageway gets its own cleaning. Once we're satisfied, we'll set it aside. We do want to inspect the seal here. Make sure the seal is going to hold. It is a little dirty under there. And we will need, if we can carefully remove the seal. If you can't, it's kind of a judgment call whether or not you think you can remove it. And this one did come off just fine. So we're going to skip ahead a little bit. I'm going to clean all this off real well and we'll get back to reassembly. Got it scrubbed up. Now we'll start with reassembly. First thing we'll do, reattach the needle valve to the float valve to the float, set it in place, run our pin back through, make sure it moves freely. Replace our seal. Our fuel bowl has already been cleaned. It will go on like so. Make sure that there's no O-ring that's sticking out anywhere. Our fuel bowl screw, which also has a series of jets in it, and our fuel bowl screw gasket. It'll sit on there just like that. Sometimes these gaskets you'll have to replace. And then we'll tighten that down with a proper socket and ratchet. Okay, so we've moved back in here to the overhang for our reassembly process. Easy enough. Reinsert our twisty thing, for lack of a better word. Now that we have that reinstalled, we won't necessarily tighten down, but we will install the carburetor flange bolts. We'll tighten them down in a minute. And the one on the other side, if I can keep from dropping it. Now we move our attention back to the top where we took this loose. After we have the carburetor hanging on there, we're going to find our governor. You may take a little bit of wiggling around, orient it so it falls down in the slot here, and reattach. We're not going to tighten this down really tight because it doesn't need to be, it'll break. But everything is where it's supposed to be. We can tighten down our carburetor flange bolts. Next, we reinstall our air filter housing. Now that that's done, we'll replace our top cover. And finally, we'll replace our air filter. I have something funny to show you. I got to remove all that. I forgot to reattach the fuel line. I'll catch back up with you here in a minute. Okay, luckily this fuel line reattaches pretty easy. Just slide it on to the carburetor nipple. Slide it on here. And move your clamps back. Alright, now we'll reinstall our air filter cover, our air filter and cover. I blew this out a little bit with the air compressor. It needs to be replaced. I don't have one right now, but it'll work for the time being to let us know if this thing's going to work. Alright, it's back installed and everything's good to go. Let's put some fuel in it and see if it starts. Alright, these things don't like old gas at all. A week old is really too old for these engines. But we'll try it. Not going to put much in there. Let it run for a minute. Well, there you go. Seems to be working pretty good. Took about 30 minutes worth of time. Easy to do. Anybody can do it. Any questions, just ask in the comments and I'll try to answer everybody I can. Well, until next time, y'all be sure to like, subscribe, comment, whatever you need to do. And I'll see you next week.